Hey, y'all. So, welcome to my first YouTube live stream. You are getting to be experimented on. I think we're supposed to do that at Halloween, not at Christmas, but we're going to experiment tonight. And it's funny enough that this came to be kind of for the same reason that Clack said he went live tonight. He said he needed to design that phone charger, and he says, I'll just do this and do a live. Well, mine ain't quite like that. I've been working all week to try and put a video together for YouTube showing how I built this shadow box. And I was going to do it a little differently. I was going to actually do it where I actually showed building the project. I was not going to be all LightBurn. It was going to be showing some laser work, showing the assembly process, the finish process, how I actually get to this point, not just the design. And I did it twice. And I lost the B-roll twice. My hard drive, where is it? I haven't thrown it away yet. Here we go. This thing has been my nemesis. And so I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm done. I'm not even going to try it again. And I had been mentioning what I was doing in a couple of different places and a couple of different groups. And everybody's like, man, we want to see how you do that. We want to see how you do that. So I figured, okay, well, why not? We'll do a live showing how I did the design instead of actually making the box. And how this came to be, like Clark said, your inspiration comes from everywhere and anywhere. And I try to have a new file or a new design every week so I stay fresh and keep you guys entertained, if you will, and learning something. But sometimes it's difficult to come up with an idea, and I've got a new cousin. This will be her first Christmas, and I made one of the 36-inch names with the CNC for her sister, and her mother wanted to have one for the new baby. And well, I've been waiting for a mill mage to get up and going, and thought that was going to be released at LightBurn Experience. That didn't happen. So everything got put on the back burner. And I said, well, I need to do something. So walking through the Dollar Tree the other night, I seen this shadow box. Well, actually, it wasn't even a shadow box. It's just a tray. This is a completely assembled tray from Dollar Tree. It was and they're $5 being at the Dollar Tree, but it was an open tray. And I said, well, you know what? I said, I can make a face for that and then create a shadow box. And that turned out okay. It was all right, but it's not up to my standards in the way of fit and finish. The edges don't line up right because the LightBurn is precise. When you cut with that CNC and the laser, everything's exact. And this tray is mitered and glued up, and it's a little off. And so I said, it was $5 for the tray, and I believe I can. I know I can make a better one, a more accurate one. And I started looking at the material, and I said, well, it's going to take 2 sheets of 300 by 300 material. It's going to be less than $4, so I can make one cheaper than I can buy one. So that's how we got here. So I'm going to look at the comments from it. Now, I'm not nearly as good at this as Clacky is. So hats off to you, sir, because you do this extremely well. And I've learned so much from watching your channel. You got me through a lot of hurdles when I was struggling with my first machine, which we will not name. But thank you. And you were a huge blessing in the early days. All right, so let's see who all we got in here. We got HTL's here. Hey, all right. Chuck Belize, IG11 from Belize. Wow. That's something that blows my mind, guys, that I'm sitting here in this little podunk town in North Carolina. I got people all over the world going, hey, there's Hobo. All right. Robert, Chicago Bob. Hey, Bob. And of course, Clack's here. Thank you, Clack, for being here. Robert Lowe. We got some North Carolina rednecks in the house. All right. Let's see. Yeah, double feature, Brandon. I don't know how often this will happen because we'll just see how this goes. And of course, you got to know if there's a live stream going on, you can count. It's absolute. What is it, Jack? Like an American Express. You're everywhere I want to be. You're there. Jack in the shop's here tonight. Let's see here. Wow. A lot of regulars. And I think I'm saying this correct. It's Nipa. Nipa has been a regular viewer on Laser Maker's Realm, and she's been following a lot of the social groups. And thank you for your support and with the files and just being part of the channel. Andy and guys, there's so many. I don't even want to go through all of them. So I think we've waited kind of long enough. I was kind of stalling a little bit before we just jumped into LightBurn to make sure everybody got through with their potty breaks. All the paperwork's done, and they're ready to come in here and learn something in LightBurn. And what I'm going to do tonight is I showed you this box. Well, this is, and I got the battery pack. This is the actual box that I ended up designing from scratch, and that's what we're going to look at tonight. And it's the slots and tabs, got my logo on the back, and then I stuffed it full of the little fairy lights to give it. And to me, that's kind of like in my hobo short-circuited brain, that's the bees. You see all the bees floating around in there, or not floating, but flying around. But also with being the shadow box, like the first one here, without the lights, when it's not well lit, then everything just becomes a little bit of a silhouette, or it's not as, it doesn't showcase as well. So we're going to look at this, and you're going to be really surprised at how simple this is. And I'm going to design a little bit, and then I'll come back over here and look at comments and design a little bit. And hopefully, if there's any questions, I can get everybody taken care of. All right. So let's see if I can drive this machine. All right. I think you should be seeing my LightBurn file or screen now. And what I do is, instead of starting with the scratch pad like Clack did, and I love the pun, from scratch, what I do first is, when I create a file, I am designing with the assumption that most people are working with a 300 by 300 millimeter piece of wood, because that's what you find all over Amazon. And that's what I like working with. I've got a premium Baltic birch that, like Clack said on that whiteboard, man, there is so many voids and glues and pockets, and it makes it hard to cut. Well, this premium Baltic birch I work with doesn't have any of that. It's more expensive, but it's quick cut, no waste. But I will create a tool path, 300 by 300 millimeters. And that is where I'm going to design my project. Centered up on my tool bed. Now we're going to do a hexagon shaped shadow box. So I'm going to come over here to my polygon tool, select it, and I'm going to go to my cut path, the red layer. And actually, you know what? Since I had that selected, got to, well, this stupid StreamYard things. There we go. There. Back to the tool path. Now select layer 2. Now select the polygon. Now I'm going to come right here, and I'm going to make this about as large as I can make it. By holding the shift button, I'm going to draw out about the largest I can make that polygon, and then put it in the center of my page. Center of the page. All right. Now there is my first basic shape, and I'm going to actually create a copy of that and move over to the side, because I'm going to need to know some of these measurements here in a little bit. And my memory, and you could write them down on that scratch pad, or come over here and type them up and make little notes on the screen. But let's see here. I'm going to check my measurements. All right. So that segment right there of that polygon is 145 millimeters on one piece of that polygon. So, okay. So now I'm just going to grab both of those, hit Control D, duplicate it, and I'm just going to set it over here to the side just in case I need to remember that again or go back to it or whatever. Now, this is going to be the shape for both the top and the bottom. And I need to put slots in here. And I, too, am very particular about things being symmetrical. That's why I look to see, using my tool here, ruler, to see what that measurement was. It's 145 millimeters. And I want to have 3 tabs, or should say on here, there'll be 2 slots and 3 tabs. So it'll be 5 spaces across here. So if it's 145 millimeters, let's open up a calculator. And I hope you can see my calculator. So it's 145 millimeters, and I want 5 spaces. That's going to be 5 equal spaces of 29 millimeters. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to grab my rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw out a rectangle. And then I'll come up here to my width. And what was that? 29 millimeters? 29 millimeters. I need to unlock my aspect ratio, and I'm going to tell it I'm working with 3 millimeter wood. So there's 29 by 3 millimeters. There's the size of what my slots and tabs are going to be. Now I can grab that, and there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. But there, I just snapped it right in that corner. And you could do a bunch. And the one thing in LightBurn, guys, is there's no one way to do something. That you can get to the same result 5 or 6 different ways. But right now, for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to do that. And I'm going to come right over here to the array tool. And I'm going to create 5 columns. See, that's how that fills that perfectly, because we did the math. We know what it's going to be. We got 0 X spacing, and say, okay. Now, I don't actually need all those. So I can select 1, delete it, select 2, delete it, select 3, delete it. And those are in the perfect position for where those need to be. But that's only 2 out of where I need to have them all the way around here. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select that, and I'm going to hit, I got both of them selected. I'm going to hit Control D, duplicate it, and move that up here, because that's also going to be a toolpath, because I'm going to need that when I'm making my tabs and slots throughout the rest of the piece. But now I'm going to duplicate it one more time, duplicate that, and I'm going to group them. And then I'm going to select the polygon and align it to the bottom. That shot them straight to the bottom. Now, those were not grouped. I'm going to go ahead and group those 2. And now I'll select both of those groups and group them. You could have just grabbed them all and grouped them, but just my way. All right, now, if you're not real familiar with the Boolean tools, whenever you want to use the Boolean tools, what you have to remember is they will only work with 2 objects. And there's a difference between objects and shapes. This right here is an object. That's an object, but that's also a shape. And that's a shape. But if you grab both of those and group them, if you look right down here in the bottom down here, that shows you that's now one object. So you've grouped them, and each individual piece has now become two individual pieces that become one object. And then I group those and group those, and now all 4 of those are one object. And those are in the exact place that I need those to be. But I need 3 more pairs, or 2 pairs, 2 more of those. So I'm going to hit that, and I'm going to hit Control D twice. 1, 2. Now I have 3 of those sitting there. So one of those is already selected, but I need to subtract it. So I need to grab my polygon first, hold my shift key, zoom in here and grab one of those. And now And see how this is now black over here on the subtract tool? Before, whenever you just got just a polygon, it's grayed out. You can't see that. But if you hold your shift key, as soon as I select that, you'll see that subtract tool is now black and dark. You can now select that tool. But if you're not familiar with the Boolean tools, and you don't know which one of these you need to use, there's another shortcut I'll show you, but not right now because these others are in the way. But I know I need to subtract, so I'm going to do that. Now, you can't really tell anything happened because all those duplicates are stacked on top of that. But that's okay. These are in the right position. I just now need to rotate my polygon. And that's what was selected as a polygon. So I come up here to rotate. Now, you need to make sure, and I call these anchor points, and I'm waiting for LightBurn to actually acknowledge this and say, hey, those are anchor points, because that's what these do. These will anchor your design in a given position. And if you tell it to rotate, it's going to rotate from that position. And right now, I need it to rotate from the center. And how much do I need it to rotate? Well, in a circle, when you're wanting to rotate something, a full circle, there's how many degrees? 360 degrees. But we got how many angles here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 angles. So 360 divided by 6 is 60 degrees. So if I rotate that 60 degrees, now you see there's my slots over there. I've already got the polygon selected. Now all I have to do is hold the shift and select another group of those slots and hit subtract tool. You can't see it happen, but it did. Now I'm just got to come right back up here to the top, rotate it 60 degrees. Hold my shift button and select those. And now you can see that was the last one. So now you can see those chasing lights. Now here is what I was going to show you. When you don't know which one of these Boolean tools to use, if you come up here to tools and then come down here to Boolean Assistant, that's going to populate another menu over here. And it has all of the Boolean tools that you have over here on the left menu are right here. But the difference is you can actually see a preview of what they will do. So if I use that one, you see the slots are gone. That's not what we want. This intersection, that leaves only the slots. That's not what we want. But that is. And here's the other option, which doesn't give you the result you want. So here you can see which one of the Boolean tools you want to use. So we want to do A subtract B. And the way that works, guys, I'm going to hit cancel. The first object you select is A. That's the polygon. So A, hold the shift button, subtract, and hit that's B. So A subtract B will give you that. So now we have just created what's going to be the bottom and the top for that shadow box. Now I'm going to switch cameras. I'm going to come back over the screen and I'm going to go up here and take a look at what you guys have been saying or doing and see if there's any questions I need to address right now before we jump into making the side pieces. So everybody's still saying hello, hello, hello. All right, I learned a lot from Hobo and Laser Maker's Realm. These guys, in fact, let's show that. What's he saying? I learned a lot from Hobo and the Laser Maker Realm guys and did my first 3D ornaments this year with tabs and slot stuff. Thank you. Thank you, HDL Holsters. And for a lot of you guys who may not know Hobo with Wood, we ain't going to go into a lot of history, but I got to be Hobo with Wood because I ended up selling my business after having multiple heart attacks and strokes. And so this brain functions on about 6 out of 8 cylinders. So while I do know your name right now, HDL Holsters, it is completely left the building. All right, so before I move on, does anyone have any questions about what we've just looked at right here? Questions, questions, questions. All right. So now, thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, I knew that, Jeremy. I knew that. All right. Now, what I like to do is you can do several things. You can save this now, like Glack suggested, which would be a good thing, but I've already got all this saved and I'm not going to do that right now. But I've got this already created. I'm going to hit Control D, duplicate it, and I'm going to move that up here out of the way. That way, if I mess up in here halfway through it or something, I can go back here without having to undo a bunch of stuff, and I can just go grab it and start fresh. But there's my top and my bottom. And now we need to make the side pieces. And I wasn't showing you LightBurn when I did all that. See, I told you, I'm still learning how to drive this thing. Now, one thing you have to realize when you're doing these boxes, the side pieces are not created equal. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to do the math to figure out. And because if you get this file, when I finally get this file uploaded to my website and you go to grab it, this is made with 3mm wood. And if you've got 3mm wood, it's ready to cut. But if you're going to use 4.5mm or 4.7mm wood, you're going to have to change your slots sizes, tabs, and slot width and tab heights. And the other issue you have is because of the thickness of the wood, the sides are not going to fit any longer. But it's really simple math on how to make that work too, and we're going to show you that. Because if you go to a thicker piece and don't accommodate for that thicker wood, they're not going to fit together at all. And if you go to a thinner piece, then you're going to end up having a large gap in between your pieces. All right. Making sure we're good. All right, moving on, going back over to LightBurn. All right, so I duplicated that and moved it up here out of the way. Now I need to make my side pieces. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and move. Well, I got that up. Yeah, well, either way, we'll just move them both over here for right now. All right, and I'm going to duplicate my work piece or my toolpath, duplicate that and send it to the center because I want to make sure when I'm designing that everything's going to fit on my 12x12 piece of material. All right, so the first thing I need to know is how long was that and what was it, 145mm? So we come back over here and look at the segment. Yep, 145mm. That's the length of one side piece or the width of one side piece. And I'm going to draw a rectangle out. And we're going to tell it to go to 145mm. And now your height, that's going to depend on how thick do you want your shadow box to be. Do you want it to be a 1-inch shadow box? You don't want a really deep box. Or if you're going to actually be making a box you're actually going to display something in it, and you need it to be a 3 or 4-inch box. Well, that's what you do here. You just set how deep do you want it to be set to your height right here. But you want to keep in mind, if you're going to try and get it on one piece of material, well, you got 300mm here to work with, and you're going to need to have 3, 3, and 3, 3, 3, and 3. You need 6 pieces on here if you're going to get them all on one piece. And I got it 145. There we go. All right. So 145mm is my first piece. Now here is my toolpath that is the size of my slots. And you're going to have 2 different designs on these side pieces. You'll have 3 of one and 3 of another. But what you're going to have is, in fact, I'm going to leave those up there and Control D, duplicate those. And I'm going to bring them down here. And I'm going to center that. And then I'm going to, now you can, and I'm going to show you guys, at least I hope I'll show you some tools you haven't seen or and didn't know about, or don't use that much. But there's a couple of different ways you can align this to here. We don't run it on the top, because if you select this and tell it to align to the top, that actually goes to the inside, and we don't want that. We need these to be on the outside. So with those there, you can come up, if you don't have these tools right here, this is the docking tools. If you don't see these on your toolpath or up here on your menu, if you go to Window and Arrange, turn off Arrange and turn on Arrange Long, that will show you a lot more of these capabilities and a lot more of the tools and options. But with this there, I've already selected it and already I'm pretty sure I've already centered it. Yep. So now I can just select that. Look over here at your padding and make sure you have 0 padding. And this only works when you're on the toolpath or on the workbed. If you're on the workbed, then docking will work, but docking will not work if you're designing off of the workbed. But with that selected, if you come up here and you look for this one's got the motion showing up on top, that sends them right down to the top of that board. I'm gonna hit Control D, duplicate it, hold my arrow button and just arrow it straight down. And now I just need to dock them straight up. We'll use the opposite one. So now those are in position. Another way you can do that is if you take and select it and then select your rectangle in a range, you've got distribute horizontally together or vertically together. And that was Alt-Shift-H for the shortcut keys, or go back in a range, distribute, move vertically together, Alt-Shift-H. So that put all of those tabs in position for that piece. Now I need to ungroup that because I only need one of these. And I'm going to hit Control D, duplicate it. And now I'm going to use my less than button, which is also your comma key. And if you look at that, look at your keyboard right now, look at your period and comma key. If you look above the period and comma key, you actually have your greater than and less than symbols. If you think of those as arrows, if you hit the comma key / the less than key, it's going to rotate it in that direction. And let's do a real quick something another that see tools, draw out a quick shape. All right. So now you can actually tell which direction it's rotating. If I hit my less than, it rotates it counterclockwise. If I hit my greater than, it rotates it clockwise, 90 degrees. It will only move it 90 degrees. All right. So there's another little tip. All right. So now we've got that. I'm going to bring it down here, and this needs to be on the outside. And we're going to select our rectangle, and we're going to align it to center. And now we're going to dock it to the, oh, I docked everything. We don't want to do that. Undo, because I had it all selected. I only want to select that and dock it right up against it. Hit the Control D button, Control D for duplicate, and hold that arrow key, shoot her straight across so I don't change my alignment. And now, oh, don't want to do that. I just want to select just that, and now just dock it straight back. All right. Now, you can do this a couple of different ways because, like I said, there's 100 ways you can do this in LightBurn. But what I say a minute ago about how many shapes or how many objects you can use the Boolean tools on, 2. But we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different tabs here. Well, you can actually select everything, hold your control button, and deselect that rectangle, group all of those. Now that's one object. Hold your shift button, select that rectangle, and now weld it together. And there's one piece ready to go. But before I do that, let's undo that. I needed to have another one of those rectangles. Control D, duplicate it, move it over here. Boom, 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 boom. All right, and now try that again. Hold the control, deselect the rectangle. That is, all right, it's already grouped. Now hold my shift button and select that and weld it. All right. And we'll do it again. We're going to undo it again because there's something else we could have done. And we're going to ungroup all of that. And we're going to select all 4 of those, actually, and group those. Hold the shift key, select that, and center that up. I didn't duplicate it, dummy. Select those. Control D, duplicate. Hold your shift button, select that rectangle, and now center it up. Now those are in position. Now we select all that, hold Control, deselect that, hold Shift, and actually, now I've got to group all those again because I ungrouped them. Now they're grouped. That's one object. Hold Shift, grab that, and weld it. And that one's back to ready. Now I've just got to do this one. Now, where this piece differs from this one has got to have an internal slot in order to marry up to that. But more than that, we have to reduce the size of this. Because if you use another 145 millimeter piece, they're not going to line up. And I'm going to come back over here to this first polygon. And I'm going to draw out a rectangle. And I'm going to tell it to be 145 millimeters by 3 millimeters. And like Clack did with the slot in his phone charger, this is just simulating the overhead view looking down on top of that piece of wood. And if I grab the corner of that rectangle and put it right there, that's where that piece would be if it's fitting in the slots, because the slots are down here. That's going to sit right on top of that. That's going to snap in place. Now, if I take that and say Control D, duplicate it, and now, guys, I'm going to demonstrate why, because some people are like, why would you ever want your anchor point to be anywhere besides in the center? Well, I've got a duplication sitting there. If I put my anchor point right up in the top, and now I tell it I want to rotate it, I think is it negative 60 degrees? Up, wrong way. Say undo. I need to put it in the bottom. There, and actually, and I hadn't pre-thought this, but this is me just trying to show you how this works. So actually, I think I need to rotate it a couple times. If we go 60, there's 1, 60. I didn't change the anchor point. But see how the anchor point, when you change your anchor point, it changes where it rotates from. And so that's, and if you've used it enough and you've got a pattern down, you can actually rotate it to where you want it if you've got your anchor point set correctly. But do you see what I'm demonstrating here? If you did them the exact same length, one's going to run into the other and it's not going to snap into the side of that wood. So these have got to be shorter than that. All right, so I'm going to jump back over here for a second to the comments before I go too far down a rabbit hole. We'll go over here. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Good. Clack says 320, 300. Yeah, I don't know. And like I said, this is not something, I don't rehearse a lot of stuff. I do a lot of stuff. Most of my videos, if you watch them, they're full of flaws. And that undo button is my favorite button because I'm always screwing up. This is not scripted and not rehearsed. And like I said, just trying to throw that in there about how that, because I've had one person, when I did a video demonstrating what anchor points are and what they do, one person was kind of a butt in his comments about, well, you put it in the middle of everything. And why would you ever need to? Well, there are times if you learn how to use the tool, it can be a benefit. But let's take, now I'm going to duplicate, and actually I'm going to duplicate this one. Control D, and now I will mirror that one. So it's at the right opposite angle and move it over here. Grab my corner, put it right in there. And I forgot to switch screens again. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so I just duplicated this one over here, mirrored it, and put it over there. So now you can see if this was going to be the shorter piece, you can see how much shorter it needs to be. And believe it or not, it's actually one of the most simple things in the world. Like I said, this file, if you end up getting this file from me, know that it's designed with 3 millimeter wood. And I'll show you also how you can tell when you look at anybody's files what it was designed for. But if you're going to go from 3 millimeter wood to making it with 4.5 millimeter wood, you're going to, for right now, to keep the math simple for this simple brain, say you're going to 5 millimeter wood. I don't know where that's going to get, where you're going to get it, but you're going to go to 2 millimeters additional thickness. Well, all you have to do is come up here, select that piece, make sure your anchor point's in the middle, make sure your well, I got to switch screens again. put your anchor point in the middle, select that one that you need shorter. Aspect ratio is unlocked. You come right here and you're starting out with 145 millimeters. And now we're going to go, and that's for a 3 millimeter piece of wood. We're going to 5 millimeters. We're getting 2 additional millimeters, but we need to reduce it on both sides. So you need to subtract the thickness of the material if you were going to 5 millimeters. Here we're working with 3 millimeters. So I need to subtract 3 millimeters from either side, or subtract 6 millimeters. So this, and if you're not aware of this, you can use this as a calculator. Right now it's got the 145 value in there. All you have to do is come to the end of that 145, hit your subtract button, subtract 6. So if you didn't already know that was 139, it'll do the math for you. Or let's say you were working with 2.7 millimeter wood and you didn't have an exact value to subtract, or an even number. You could say, let's go back. You've got 145, and now you need to subtract 2.7 millimeters. Just say subtract 2.7, subtract 2.7. And that will do the math for you. So you don't even have to do the math in your head to find out what the total sum is. So let's go back and get subtract 6, because that's what we need here, because I'm working with 3 millimeter wood. We subtracted 3 millimeters from this side and subtracted 3 millimeters from this side. And now if you look, there is clearance there for those side pieces to fit in there. All right. Now, that was a whole lot of stuff. I'm just going to check over here because, and guys, I actually appreciate that either you're asleep or you're paying attention, because the comments are not going through the roof here. And I must be doing an okay job because it's not a lot of questions here. Glasgow John, are my files for sale? This one is not for sale yet, but my website is hobowithwood.com. Let's see here, banners. No, I don't have a ticker for my banners or for my website. Go away, hide. Anyway, and see, I'm still learning all this. And it's like, Clack, he's doing stuff, and he's even got sound effects and drum rolls and rim shots. And I ain't there yet, but I'm getting there. I want to do this, though. I want to put this up, save, show. All right. So, guys, if you aren't aware, yes, hobowithwood.com. I started that website in March of this year, and I've already got some pretty good files up there. Clack mentioned the gumball machine, and I'm like him too, Squirrel. I ain't going to do that to you, but here's my functioning gumball machine. It's actually a working gumball machine. I love it. That's on my website, and a whole bunch of stuff's on there. But if you see here scrolling across the screen now, I just implemented it this month. If you go to patreon.com and become a patron, patreon.com/hobowithwood, a bronze supporter gets 60% off all of my files. A silver supporter gets 80% off all of my files. A gold supporter gets 100% off all of my files. And I try to add something to it every week. Try to. All right. So go back. Comments. Wait, just designing more phone holder. I hear you, Glack. Hey, and Squirrel. What I was trying to demonstrate, I've got something similar to that, but on your phone charger, an open slot will let you plug up the phone and then set the phone on there, and then the charger cord can go down and out, and then out the slot at the bottom, and it's really nice. That's just but now the one thing that I did learn is you really benefit, and I haven't done it yet. You benefit by having a little bitty kickstand that pops up here in the front, keeps the phone from kicking out. So detour. My chat keeps freezing. Well, hopefully that's nobody else is experiencing that. Yep, did that. Okay, very good. All right, moving on, going back to LightBurn. All right, so now by doing that subtraction and figuring out, and remember, initially this was 145, and I subtracted 3 millimeters off of each side because I'm working with 3 millimeter wood. If you're working with 4.5 millimeter wood, you would subtract 4.5 from each side. All right, but now you know what that length needs to be, and that's 139 millimeters. So now we can come back over here and tell this to be, with the aspect ratio unlocked, so you maintain your height, tell that to be 139 millimeters. Now that's the right size, the right length. Grab one of those, hit my less than button, rotate that, bring it down here. I'm going to align it to center. Take it, and this one needs to be on the inside. So now I can select that and select this one and align it to the left. Take that, duplicate it, and select that and align it to the right. Now I can do the same thing again. Everything's in position. Select the entire thing, hold my control button, select the square, the rectangle to deselect it, group everything, hold the shift button and select the rectangle again and hit weld. Oh, not weld. I got to subtract those. So no, I can't do that. See, told you, undo button. So I got to ungroup all those, dummy. Group only those. And they already grouped. So there, and weld that. And now that's already selected. So just hold the shift button and select those and hit the subtract button over here. And now that's ready. Did that one get cut clean? Don't look like it. Even though I lined it to the right, it don't look like it. Nope, I didn't group it, stupid. Golly, that's okay. All I got to do is just grab that one, tell it to go back to center, put it on the inside, and I've actually got the toolpath selected too. Come on, grab that one, align it to the right, and now say A, subtract B, and now that's ready. Now we've got a top and a bottom, and we got the sides, but we need 3 of each of those. So you can take this and actually, you could now, depending on whether or not you work with kerf, if you add or subtract for your laser and kerf, then you would not want to do this. You can actually, you should be able to take those and overlap them by grabbing that corner right there and put it right in that corner, and it's not going to snap into place. My snap usually works, but it's not snapping tonight. But you could do that, overlap them, and go over to your optimization settings and make sure you have remove overlapping lines turned on and say okay. And then it's going to come down through there and cut that line one time. But if you use kerf, you cannot do remove overlapping lines because the laser is going to add additional material to the cut, and then they would overlap each other and it would mess up your entire design. So you got to be careful with that. But now we need 3 of those. So we just, and actually, you know what? We're going to take both of those, align it to the top, make sure they're aligned. Now I'm doing my array tool, and I need three rows. And we're going to go ahead and put a 1 millimeter Y spacing in there to put a little gap in between them in case you're going to do any kerf, and say, okay. So now I actually have a box. There's the top, the bottom, and all the sides. It's done. All right. That's going to go together and work like a champ. Now let's come back over here, look at the comments, questions. So far, so good, Steve. You're doing a great job, Hobo. Thank you, Bob. And cheers. I'll look at this a little later. It's 2:38. Yeah, Glasgow. Yeah. Good night. Good morning, actually. Okay. Any comments, questions? Because now, and I'm hoping there was somebody in Clack's stream that was, well, yeah, Greg, you were wanting to look at how to do the the honeycomb. And it was so funny that both Clack pulled up the honeycomb on his cell phone. And I'm telling you, great minds, man, great minds. Because this was my intention tonight. And it's the honeycomb shadow box. And I was about to go live when he went live. And I said, well, I ain't going to step on his toes. And we have a lot of overlapping viewers. And instead of, trying to steal from one or the other, I was like, I'll just wait and see if it's not too late, I'd come on. And so here we are. So thank you guys for jumping from him to me. I appreciate it. But now we're going to jump into the array tool and how I create that pattern, that honeycomb pattern, and how I get it centered and filled in the right size. And there's a whole lot of things you have to think about when you're doing this, because first thing is, if you make, like Clack said when he was demonstrating on that phone charger, he'd shrunk that down so small, it'd cut it out. But boy, them will get fragile, the little bars in between the honeycomb. So typically, I like to design as small as I'm ever going to make it. And if it's good and strong when it's as small as it will ever be, when you blow it up, it's only going to be even better. But if you make it fragile, large, and you try to shrink it down, it ain't going to work. So let's look at how I do the honeycomb. Go switch screens. Done. All right. So now I can take and pull all this. Now I want to show you before I pull this out of the way. By me designing these on this toolpath, and I know that's the material I have to work with, I can see that I've got all of this down here at the bottom is good, usable material that I can put other pieces on, accent pieces or designs, and that's not wasted wood. And it's all organized and positioned as well as it can be. All right, so I've got 2 copies here. Just for grins, I'm gonna go to my art library and come down here and grab my Hobo logo. Hobo, add graphic. Come over here, hold my shift button, put that in the center, blow that up. About like so. So there's my bottom. Here's my top. So let's grab this and put it in the center of my work bed. I'm done with that for now, so I can actually get rid of that. Now I need to create a honeycomb pattern, and I need to know how big is it going to be. And this is, and I can appreciate Clack so much when he talks about his OCD. When I'm designing, and I told you, this is how you can tell what the material was intended to be used when you make a design. If you get a file from me and I don't say, hey, this was 3mm wood, all you got to do is grab your ruler and come over here and get the length of that segment right there. How deep is that slot? And right there, you can see it's 3mm. So when I designed it using 3mm wood, that was the plan. And we'll show you how to resize all that too. And if anybody's still here, we'll do that. But now, since this is 3mm, and I'm going to have a tab sticking in there, and the edge, I'm going to have, to me, I see a 3mm line that runs straight down through there. So I'm going to come back over here. Well, like that. That's solid instead of the slots. But so that to me is already used in the design. So I'm going to come over here to this piece right here. And let's come back over here and show you. In my mind, I've already created this when I'm doing this layout. And I know that I want to do the honeycomb, but I also want to do this border right here. I want to have that. And in one version I did, wherever it's at, I actually made that border the same size as the exterior and covered up the slots. I brought it all the way out to the edge and hid the slots. And I was like, if all the slots were hidden, then that would have looked okay. But with only those being hidden and being able to see that and see these, I'm like, no, we need to see the slots. So if I want to see the slots and I want to bring that in, I want to have the same amount of gap at the top as I do in between my honeycombs. So I pre-think all of that as I'm setting this up. So what I'm looking at, I come back over here, I grab the original shape. And this is why I made this original shape earlier. I knew I was going to need it. I'm going to come over here to my offset tool. Well, we can change strings again. See, guys, I'm getting there. All right, so I kept this original shape. And I've selected it. And now I'm going to come over here to the offset tool. And if I offset tool, there we go. And I'm going to come into inward offset. We're working in millimeters, and that's let's say 6 millimeters right now. That gives me my an equal distance between the slots and how thick that piece would be. But then I won't need another 3 millimeters on this side of it. So I actually need to make that 9 millimeters. So now, if in fact I'm going to go ahead and create that piece. Let's go back. Come back here to 6 millimeters, not 60. Stupid. 6. All right. So that gives me 3 millimeters in to the edge of those slots and in a 3 millimeter gap. And I'm going to say, okay. Now I've got that, and I'm going to come back to my offset tool, and I'm going to say 3 millimeters. And then I'm going to say, okay. And I'm going to take those two. And now I'm not going to group them yet. I'm going to take that one, and then I'm going to come in and offset it. So that's going to be my 3 millimeters. Now that's 6 millimeters between there. So now I need to do another offset of 6 millimeters. And I hope that math didn't, but now you can see it. If I delete that toolpath, go away. Now you can see. See how that's equal distance in and out. But that right there, those two, group those together. And that's that trim piece that's going to sit around the top. This is going to be the border that goes on the outer piece of my honeycomb pattern. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to center it up. Didn't mean to do it like that. Undo. Select the inner piece. Select that piece and bullseye it. All right. So there we go. So there is the top outer frame, but now don't minus the honeycomb. So now, Greg, this is what you were wanting to see. Hope you're still with us. All right. So this is about eyesight and what looks good. I haven't done any pre-math again, but I'm going to come up here to my polygon tool, holding the shift key, and I'm going to draw out. I'm going to come right over here as far as I can to the left internally and draw out that polygon, holding the shift tool. And what is that going to be? Let's just log the aspect ratio. And now I'm going to tell that to be 30 millimeters, just because it's a nice round number. And now I'm going to kind of position it about where I think it's going to look best. And what I'm looking at, what I'm thinking is if I stay with that, just like Clack was staying with that 25 millimeter circle, if I come in here and do another offset of 3 millimeters, say okay, and put that on a tool path. Don't want to put that on a tool path, put you back on a cut path. And then if I was to center that, come on, there you go. There. That's going to give me a 3 millimeter gap between that polygon and that when it's all welded together. So that's kind of the position that I'd want to start from, or that's as far left in this pattern as I need to be. But the problem I got is I can't start my array from here because you can only do your array up or down. You can't go in both directions. So once I've positioned this in about where I need it to be, then I'm going to come up, I'm going to use my arrow button and just arrow that up. And I'm actually going to take it above this toolpath, and you'll see why in a few minutes. But I'm going to take that up there. And in fact, what I'll do is, and I don't even know if this is going to work, but it doesn't matter right now. I'm going to grab that, hold my shift button, and grab that toolpath and tell it, no, that's not, that ain't going to matter. It ain't going to matter. Because I'm going to start playing with the grid array, and then I'm going to probably have to position the stuff anyway. But you need to have this above that line and as far left in this design as you're going to be. Now what I'm going to do is, just so I can see it better, I don't need that toolpath anymore. I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to put this on a toolpath just so I can see this polygon better. I'm going to select that. Now I'm going to go to my grid array tool. Now you're going to have to do a couple of different things to create your honeycomb. If we just create a bunch of columns, you're going to want to create your columns, enough columns so that they come past this over here, and you know you're started out over here good. All right, but now if we do rows, and let's put everything at 0 spacing. We have 0x spacing and we have 0y spacing. Now that's actually a cool pattern, but that's not a honeycomb pattern because we got diamonds in there, and that actually looks pretty cool. And that's how actually I created the white shadow box. I did not do honeycomb. I did this. But if you want to create the honeycomb, what you have to do is now come over here and tell it we're going to shift by half. That's pretty cool. That's still not a honeycomb. Now we need to start increasing our X spacing and decreasing our Y spacing. So if we increase some space here, now you start to see it's starting to look more like honeycomb, but it's not positioned correctly. Now I told it to be 30 millimeters. What was it? A 30 millimeter height or width? I can't remember now. But a lot of this I will eyeball. But you can actually put in the exact measurements if you knew what you were playing with. But you can tell this by looking at it. But now we've got those shifted by half. Now here you're going to come in here to the Y spacing and start decreasing your Y spacing. Not increasing, decreasing your Y spacing. See how it starts pulling them up in there? And now you can see your X and Y spacing. You can keep increasing it and decreasing it until it's starting to get there. Okay, no, go back. That was too much there. And that's probably we're going to do negative 12.5. Yeah, there we go. And that looks like that's symmetrical to me. All right. But when we shifted it by half, see how much longer the array got? We don't need all those columns. We can decrease some of those columns. You want to make sure that you come well past this, because we're going to have to move this whole array into position. So let's increase our rows, and you want to come well beyond the bottom like that. Now, in fact, we'll go ahead and give it another column. There we go. So now that is plenty large enough to cover that entire area. But those, while that is symmetrical, those are going to be really fragile. So I'm actually going to go ahead and increase 2 and decrease 2. Oh. And again, there. That's not quite right. That's better. and we can say okay. Now, you notice I said okay, and now we're back to that one single piece again. Well, in version 1.5, when they ring it out, I'm told that we'll have the option to actually, while that array was open, click a button that tells it to select that entire array instead of just this piece. So now what we got to do is grab that entire array and then deselect anything we didn't want. And it looks like I can't, yeah, it looks like Control D and Control D. I think that's got rid of both of those. And now we can group it. And let's go ahead and grab these again and put them back on the red path so we can see them. And now with that array grouped, you can grab that and move that around anywhere you want it to be. And right now, if we grab that and just tell it to go to center, that may or may not be where we want it to be, because what I look for is, again, I'm looking for symmetry. And I look to see where that's at. This piece here is inside that. It goes too far. And over here, we don't have one lined up on there at all. So what I would do is undo, grab my array, and I've got it centered. So now I can just go left and right with my arrow keys and try and create the symmetry to where I've got, you know, there's a partial honeycomb, there's a partial honeycomb, and try and make them all symmetrical. And if you really want to get crazy about it, and you want to try and get that point with that point, that point with that point, well, all you got to do is hold your, with that selected, hold your shift button, come down here and scale it up a little bit. In fact, if we come back here and grab that piece, do that offset again of 3 millimeters inward, and select the resulting, and then put it on a toolpath. I shouldn't have deleted it a minute ago. So now I can actually use that to take and draw that out, get it over here where I can see it. Hold my shift button and draw that out to about there. And that's going to give me real close to a 3 millimeter gap in there. That's close enough for right now. Now I need to make the honeycomb be in that center piece. So I'm going to delete that toolpath. Now I'm going to switch screens and go back over here, look at the comments, and see if there are any questions up to this point. Okay, yes, my files for sale, done. All right. Oh, wait, designing more phone holders. Yes, doing a great job. Thank you, Chicago Bob. So far, so good. Keeps freezing. Where I believe kerf becomes an issue if you're using no. Let's see. Y'all guys, you talking amongst yourselves here. Wouldn't you account for the kerf in the beginning when you size the tabs? Some people do. I think Rich, Louisiana hobby guy, I'm pretty sure he does. That's why I say there's no one way to do this. It's really, and I am a huge believer of right brain and left brain people. People do not think the same way. And just because you're right-handed and he's left-handed, or you, as long as you get to that same point, it doesn't matter how you get there. Some people do account for the kerf when they're doing the design. I don't. I have tested each of my lasers, and I know what the kerf is for that. So I don't worry about that when I'm designing, and I don't do the overlapping lines when I'm doing boxes. So I've got all my design set out, and I can actually input the actual kerf in the settings for that layer, and I get a tight friction fit. And I used to make fun of Rich because he says he likes to hammer his stuff together. In fact, he's got a little special hammer. I do too now. Because once you get that kerf dialed in and you got it just right, And you can put these things together with no glue. So no, you can do it that way, Mark, but you don't have to do it that way. And I believe kerf becomes an issue if you're using closed slots. And yeah, if you're doing internal, I think like not on the edges, then yeah, then that can start to be problematic because you're taking the kerf into consideration on all four sides. But when you're cutting the tab that goes into it, you're not getting it. It does become a little bit tricky. Go away. The machines have very little kerf to be concerned with as long as you glue it up. Yeah, if you glue it up, like I said, in fact, where is it at? I had it laying right here. Oh, is it behind me? I don't know. One of the tests I did, I've got the perfect cube, and that thing is solid, and it has no glue whatsoever. What does that say under the? Brandon's asking, what does that say under sweeter than honey? This is a scripture from the Bible. It's Psalms 119, 103. And how sweet to my tongue is your promise, sweeter than honey to my mouth. Psalm. And I'm planning on doing another one using a verse from Matthew talking about letting your light shine. And then it being a lighted box and play on the let your light shine. Hide you. Blah, blah, blah. Mirror using anchor points. Yeah, that, like I said, I use them all the time, and I use them pretty effectively. But today, and this, you may not believe it, but I am stressed right now because I'm trying to figure this out, the comments and this and that. But we're getting there. We're doing all right. Let's see here. Go away. Talking about the there's a kerf test on you. Yes. LA Hobby Guy has a kerf test where he does 10 equal cuts and then slides them all together and measure how much is gone, and now you divide it by 10. Now you know what your kerf is. I do mine a little differently. Again, like I said, there's no one way, there's no wrong way. I actually will take and make a slot and a tab and start trying to fit them together, and playing with additional. I know where the kerf is going to be approximate, and I will just actually test fit the actual slot and tab until I'm happy with it. And I had some of those laying around here too, but those are gone because I wasn't planning on talking about that. But all right, hide. Hey, Chicago Bob, thank you, brother. I didn't even ask for no money tonight. Thank you. Yeah, guys, if you like what's going on and if you've learned something tonight, down below there is the super thanks button. And Chicago Bob, bless you, brother. Thank you. Clack, doing great. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Hello from Southern Illinois. Yes, you're doing fine tonight. Okay. How long have we been at this? Man, we're an hour into this already. All right. So let's get back over here to LightBurn. And this is one of those deals where you've got to be careful about what you select, because this line, and hold my shift button, and that line, that's the actual frame, if you will, of the outer piece. And if they were grouped, that's now one object, because two pieces are grouped as one object, not two pieces. And now you take that, and now you hold, and we've got all of that array grouped. So that's one object, and that's one object. So if you hold your shift button and select this, you only have two objects right down here at the bottom. You see it's two objects. You go into your tools and your Boolean assistant, and you can start looking. Do I want that? No, I don't want that. Do I want that? No, I don't want that. Do I want that? Nope, I don't want that. Do I want that? No, that's not quite right either. So you're like, wait a minute. And this is where it can get frustrating. But that's the one good thing about this assistant. You can actually preview and see, and nothing's actually happened. So none of those are what you want. So hit cancel. So you know you've got to have the array grouped. It has to be. So let's ungroup these. Ungroup. And we're going to select just the inner piece. Hold your shift button and select the array. And we'll go back to tools, the assistant. And now we can look at here and see there. Oh, there it is. So it's not the union, it's the intersection. And it's not the subtract, because subtract gives you an entirely different outcome. You don't want to do subtract B and A or A and B. It's the union right there, or the intersection, I should say. So you say done, and now you tell it okay. And that easy, that fast, you've just created. And if I wasn't explaining this, we wouldn't have been in it in an hour. I could have done this in about 5 or 10 minutes. And when you practice this, you will get to be able to do this really quickly yourself and save some money on, instead of buying boxes. You can, like I said, well, let's see how many pieces of material this will be. That's 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 piece. And then now that I forgot to show you what I'm going to do with the trim. And you know what? I forgot to do it up here too. See, undo. All right. Let's, just for giggles right now, I'm going to take this one and I'm going to put it on a green path, put it in line mode. Say okay. And now I'm going to turn off my red output. Turn it off. There we go. So now all I see is my green toolpath. I'm going to create some scallops with this. And so it's not just a hard line cut on those honeycombs. And for that, I'm going to use node editing. And right now, man, we talking about all kinds of tools tonight. We talking about anchor points and then nodes and you name it. The add and subtract tool. Bob, you getting your money's worth tonight, brother. I appreciate you. All right. So now what I'm going to do in order to create the scallops, I need more nodes. So I'm going to come in here to this top line and I'm going to use the letter M as in Mary. And if you come over here to the node tool and you just hover over it for 1 second, it will actually create that little pop-up menu and it shows you all the things you can do here in the node tool. You have S for smooth, which we're going to use. You have L for convert to a line, C for convert to a corner, D to delete, I for insert, M for middle, which is what we're going to use. And it just timed out. Come back. M for middle, B for break apart, T for trim, E to extend the line, and A to align. And that A to align is a pretty neat tool too. We're not going to go into that tonight. It's a whole nother ballgame. But we are going to use M as in Mary for middle, and we're going to use S for smooth. Now, what's neat about M is it's going to insert a node right here in the middle. And you see how my crosshairs just changed to that little circle and a half of a crosshair? That tells me I'm in the middle of that line. So I can hit the letter M, and that gives me the node right in the middle. But right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the letter D. I'm going to hover over that and hit the letter D to delete it, because I'm going to show you what M does. All you have to do is be on that line. You don't have to be in the middle. I'm going to come way over here to the left, and now I'm going to hit the letter M as in middle. It puts the node in the middle. Now, I'm not moving my cursor. I'm going to stay right there, and I'm going to hit the letter M again. It puts a node in the middle of those two. And I'm going to hit the letter M again. Puts a node in the middle of those two. Now I'll need to come over here and put a node. Come over here. I'm going to hit node Mary twice, M, and a node there. And I only use the letter M to create all of those. And it equally spaced those out. So I'm going to come down here to the kind of toward the bottom of this line. Use the letter M as in Mary. And I'm going to just do it really quick. I'm 1, 2, 3, and then middle, 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 and middle. Come over here. Come down here. I'm going to 1, 2, 3, middle, 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 and middle. 1, 2, 3, middle, 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 and middle. 1, 2, 3, middle, 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 and middle. And again, middle, 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 middle. All right. So that just created equally spaced nodes on all of those lines, all those tangents. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hover over every other node starting just inside the corner. And I'm going to hover over it and hit the letter S for smooth. Come over, skip, hit that one, skip that one, hit this one, hitting the letter S on every other one. Now that I've done that, I'm going to come back. I want to select it, holding the shift key, select each one of those that I just turned into a smooth curve. And now I'm going to arrow it down 1, 2, 3. Now I need to rotate 60 degrees. S, oh, come on, got to hover over it. S, or deselect the other ones. S, S, hold my shift button, select, 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 and 1, 2, 3. Deselect them, rotate it. S, I'm sorry, S, S, nope. Now see there, I didn't get over that node. And when I did, it put that's a curve and that's a curve, and that's wrong. So now I can, with being hovered in between them, I can hit the letter L for line, and that puts it back to a line. Now you hover over that and do S and S. Now shift, or select, select, and down 3. 1, 2, 3. Deselect, rotate it 60 degrees. Select it, hold it, or shift, or not shift, just the letter S, letter S. Oh, I missed it again. Hit the letter L, change it back. Letter S, letter S. Shift button, select, select, select. 1, 2, 3. Deselect, rotate it 60 degrees. S, 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 shift, holding, 1, 2, 3. Deselect, rotate it 60 degrees. And the last tangent. S, 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 hold shift, grab that one, and that one. 1, 2, 3. Now, if I look at that, now you've got pretty little scallops all the way around that are exact. And that's what an OCD person has to have. So now I can put that back on the red cut path, turn my red cut path back on. And now with that selected, hold my shift button, select that, go back to the tools, Boolean assistant. And is it intersection still? Yes, it is. Done and done. Now see how much better that looks than having that as a straight line. And now, and you know what? Before I do that, go back, undo. I'm going to take that and I'm going to do an offset outward 3 millimeters and say, okay. And now select the inner one again, select that, tools, Boolean assistant, intersection, okay. And now I can grab this. I'm going to ungroup it because I don't want that straight inner line. I'm going to grab that one and come over here and bullseye it. And so now this and this grouped. There's my top trim piece. All right, coming back to questions and comments. Oh, wow, we got some more super stickers. Oh, man, thank you guys. I tell you, I appreciate it a lot. It means a ton to me. It does. Thank you. I'm trying not to get all teary-eyed here. And that's another thing. This after I had my second stroke, man, my emotions are right here. I can't watch a commercial and not get teary-eyed. What did I watch last night? I watched some movie last night, and it's sappy, stupid, and I feel so silly, but I just get all teared up. And thank you guys, appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. All right, now I hope you've learned quite a bit here. And I don't see a lot of questions, which that's good. But I don't know. Let's see what Matthew's saying here. I see a BS here. I love the way you teach to the point and not trying to be funny or add any extra BS. Yeah, Matthew, I'm just me, man. I don't and I don't profess to be a professional. I just started this in June, Father's Day of last year. I'm only I'm less than 2 years at this, and I had no formal training. I learned my foundational knowledge about LightBurn by watching Rich, the Louisiana hobby guy. And full disclosure, Rich, the Louisiana hobby guy, was a blessing for learning LightBurn, and Clack was a godsend for trying to learn how to use the laser that I was working with that I refused to name. He's had great success with it. That thing was it like to ruin me. I was fit to be tied. I went through so many lenses in less than 4 months. I'd go through a lens in a day. I couldn't. Cleaning the machine every day, and then 4 or 5 hours later, but I learned so many shortcuts and ways to work around using that laser by watching Clack's channel that Clack helped me get through a lot of those struggles working with that tool. And he does so well, and he's done so well with his the jigs, because those machines are not this. And I haven't turned on the machine tonight, and I don't plan to cut anything tonight, because this was just about how to do and what to do. And now what I'm going to show you how the next thing and the last thing I'm going to show you on this design is, if you get this design and it was created for 3 millimeters, how do you adjust those pieces for the new material thickness? It's a whole lot easier than you think, and you don't have to redesign everything. And we're going to look at that in just a second. You've been very good so far. No questions yet. Beautiful. Just been soaking it up, Steve. Thank you. Learning a lot tonight, and I don't even have a diode. Well, I tell you, the diode, and I've got a CO2 sitting over there, but I only turn that CO2 on when I'm doing acrylic. And now that I've got this, guys, and I'm not one to get on a product and stomp and get on the soapbox and thump about a product, but this is one of the most incredible machines. And I've worked with this, the Creality, and I really liked my Comgrow. Man, I love that machine. That Comgrow Z1, that thing was a workhorse, and that got me through a long dry spell. Like I said, we won't talk about the first one. But this machine, and like Clack said tonight, you don't need jig. That honeycomb is fixed in place, and you can. And the first time I seen Rich cut something, and like tonight, Clack picked up that phone holder, and it wasn't completely cut through. This thing is so precise that you could have taken that and put it right back on the honeycomb and hit the job and sent it right back out, and it would have cut right back over it again after removing the material. It is nuts how precise this is. Yeah, I'm just me, brother. Just me. Let's see. And I thought I wanted a bigger, Jeremy, I thought I wanted a bigger laser, but for what I do, and this is my job. This is my job now. It's been my full-time job since June of last year. By selling my files and now finally getting the YouTube channel monetized, I'm starting to get some money in, but this is how I earn a living. Craziest thing, multiple heart attacks, open heart surgery, 2 strokes, and I can't get disability. They turn me down, and I can't get a job. I've got my CDL driver's license, and nobody will hire me because of my heart condition. Every company will hire me. They'd love to have me, but their insurance company says, nope, sorry, he's a risk, and we can't have him. So the company won't hire me because the insurance won't cover it. So this is my job. This is how I earn my living. And because of that, most of the hobbyists out there are working with material that's the 12 by 12. So a bigger laser and a bigger work bed doesn't benefit me any because I'm designing for all the grandpas out there and all the grandmas out there that are working with the hobby lasers. All right. Stroke survivor here, man. Mark, yeah, and if you ever see me and I'm stumbling, stuttering, if I get really stressed and I like tonight, thank you guys for making this so easy. But if I get really stressed, I will start sounding like I'm drunk. See. I only have a fiber right now. Well, I tell you, Jeremy, that's something that you need to get in your shop. Jack, what is a fiber? That's a piece of material right here in your clothes. Come to Canada, we'll take care of you. Yeah, I hear you. What, Astrid? I'm looking to move. I really am. I want to be out of where I'm at. Okay, so now let's jump back over here, and I'm going to show you how what you need to do if you're going to resize these pieces. Right now, like I said, if you grab this and grab your ruler and come in here and look, you can look at the length of one of those segments and see that that's 3 millimeter material. So you know that. And you're going to go to 4.5 millimeters. So, okay, grab 2 of those and delete it because you know you don't need them. Now come up here to this one. And we're going to come inside of it and we're going to grab our rectangle tool. Actually, you know what? Let's deselect it first. Grab a tool path and grab our rectangle. And we're going to come up here and get our crosshairs right in the corner there and draw it out until we get crosshairs in this corner. All right. Now, that tool path is the exact size of that rectangle. And I need it to be smaller because we're going to go from 3 millimeter material to 4.5 millimeter material. That's an additional 1.5 millimeters times 2. So it's a 3 millimeters smaller. So with the anchor point in the center, if you subtract 3 millimeters, subtract 3 millimeters, and I had the aspect ratio locked. Let's go back, undo, unlock the aspect ratio, and subtract 3 millimeters. That, and actually we got, yeah, because we're only going 1.5 millimeters thicker, but we're doing it in both directions. So 3 millimeters. So now that you've got that tool path there at the right size you need it to be, come back to this tool, this piece, that design, and go to the node editing tool, node editing. Then draw every one of those. Select every one of those. Come up here, grab that, and bring her right there. Come up here, grab that, and bring her right there. Now it's resized to the correct 4.5 millimeter material. Now you need to resize your slots and shapes. Now we're going now let's see here. We're an hour and a half in, and 90 minutes is about what most people like to see, but you guys are still with me and you hadn't had a whole lot of questions. Now I'm going to show you resizing slots and tabs, but I'm going to show you a trick that you do when you're creating it. Now, if people are using the box generators and all that, I try not to do that because they have so many problems that they bring into LightBurn. So when you design your own, you can make it what you want and you specify what's what, and you can tell LightBurn things that LightBurn doesn't know how to differentiate, like the following. We'll go back here. Oh, turn off Astrid. There we go. I need to make 3 more of those. So let's come back up here and go to our array tool. And I've got all this. And that's when you use the array tool, when we did our honeycomb, we were doing all these X spacing. It saves it from the last time you were using it. So delete all those and get rid of them. And now I need to do 2 rows and I don't, and say save that shift by half, turn that off. And now, okay. All right. So there's my new resized pieces, but they're the wrong size slots and tabs. And I'm going to go thicker or going to go bigger. And I had 0 spacing there. So I kind of messed that up. So we're going to come down 2 and then select that one and down 1. Now those are equally spaced, but I'm going to need more spacing in that because I'm going to get ready to make these tabs bigger. These are going to go up and these are going to come down. There's a chance they're going to overlap. So I'm going to grab both of those and I'm going to come down. And if you go into your gears up here, this is where you set your distances for your movement. And I've got if I use my arrow, I move 1 millimeter. Shift arrow, I move 0.5 millimeter. Control arrow, I move 1/8 of a millimeter. And you can put those to whatever you want them to be. And if you were designing and you wanted to move it 10 millimeters each time, just change that to 10. But I'm moving 1 millimeter. So, okay. So I'll grab both of these and I'm going to come down 2 and I'm going to grab both of these and come down 1. Now I need to resize slots and tabs. I'm going to get rid of that toolpath and I'm going to show you this one right here. Now this piece is all tabs. So it's tabs sticking out here, tabs sticking out here, tabs up here, right? Those are all tabs. This design is tabs and slots. So when you do these, you've got to make sure you're resizing both tabs and slots. But the problem LightBurn has is LightBurn doesn't know what a tab is and what a slot is. It cannot differentiate one from the other. So and look at this one, for example. We know these are all tabs. But if I go into Tools and Resize Slots and Selection, if I'm doing slot depth, I got to put in my first. A lot of people are like, "Oh, don't work, it don't work." Well, it's because you've got to put in your measurements. The old material thickness, the tab height was 3 millimeters. So it does not auto detect what it was. So you have to put in 3. And then your new material thickness. And we're going to go to 4.5. And I actually increased my tolerance level by 0.5 millimeters or greater. That way, if there's a slight variance between one and the other, you've increased this tolerance level enough that you're going to get everything. But if you notice right here, this is wanting to resize slot depth. That's not a slot. But these over here are. And if you were to grab both of these and tell it resize, and you want to resize these slots and you're not paying attention, it's going to resize these two. And when you do, that drops down here. And now whenever you try to put your lid on, the lid's going to come to here and stop. Now you're going to have this gap right here that just ruined your design. So what you have to do, and what I do, if you ever buy any of my designs, I do this. My designs are already distinguished so that LightBurn cannot screw it up. If we go into node editing and we look, here are 4 nodes right there that make that tab. But here are 4 nodes that make that slot. But that's not a slot. But LightBurn doesn't know that. So to keep LightBurn from being confused, in fact, what I do, these wouldn't even be here yet. Delete those. Select this, go back to node editing. What I do is I come in here and use my favorite letter M and put a node right here in the middle of all those, of both of those. So now there are 5 nodes right here. And if we go into Tools and Resize Slots and Selection and try to look at slot depth, it no longer sees any slots here. And to show you that it is still working, if I select both of these, come back, get both of them, go to Tools, Resize Slots and Selection. In fact, look there. There's the slots. These are not slots. I need to do the same thing here. But see, it no longer sees these anymore. So I got to come over here and put in 2 nodes right there. So cancel, grab that, go into node editing, put in M as in Mary, M as in Mary. And now, if I look at both of those in the tools, resize, slots and selection, if I go to resize slot depth, it's only going to move those slots. I go to tab height, and it's going to move that tab, that tab, that tab, and all those tabs. That's exactly the way it needs to be. And you'd say, okay. And now we've changed, that's the tab height. Now, this is something else that you can expect in version 1.5 when it comes out. You see how the tool closed, but we only got our tabs. We did not get our slots. Now we got to go back again, open the tool back up, and then go get our slot depth, and now say okay. Well, in 1.5, thanks to yours truly, when you open this tool and go to resize slots and selection, and it's partly because LightBurn cannot differentiate one from the other. They won't let you do multiples. You can't do slot depth and tab height at the same time. You do one or the other. But what they're going to do in 1.5 is now what happens when you select tab height and say, okay, the tool closes. Then you got to go back, open it again, come back, do it again. Well, they're going to put in another button right here that'll say apply. And so you'll do tab height and apply. And then you go slot depth and apply, slot width and apply, and then say okay, and it'll close the tool. And now that you've done, you've modified and you make your modifications to each of these individual pieces and make the slots to slots and the tabs to tabs. Then once you've modified them, got everything working right, then go back to your array tool and do your additional pieces. And we'll give it another and say okay. All right, back to me. All right. So, yes, I agree. Lasermatic is awesome. Yes, Kevin, it is awesome. All day long did a cool engrave. All right, you guys are back and forth with what y'all been doing. That's cool. Just been doing more stove covers. Yeah, Jack, go ahead. Jack's taking a page from Clack, making some money over there. Kevin's also a CDL driver. Very good. All right. So do you guys have any questions about what I've talked about? Because we've gone over a ton of stuff. We're over an hour and a half in. Is there anything that I've lost you on, you need me to refresh or go over? Or is there anything else that you want to see? Like I just lost my battery pack. Like how I got my B in there and the offsets in there and all that. Do y'all want to see that, or are we done for tonight? We got 48 people still here. That's awesome. Is there anything else? Do you want to see how you merge those into your honeycomb, or you want to wrap that up? Talk to me, Pete. Because I'll keep you here all night. I don't have a life, and it's go for the B. All right. Put the B in, please. All right. Okay. Turn you off. All right. Instead of actually grabbing the B right now, because if you're going to add anything in there, let's go over to my art library. We don't need that. Let's do no. Oh, I know what I want to do. Where are you at? There we go. All right. Switch screens. Done. All right. I'm going to grab a simple shape, add it to the project rather. That's a set of eyeglasses. We're going to put it on a cut line. All right. if that was the actual piece that you're going to cut out and put on here, then we'll make it a little bit smaller. You don't want it to be, in fact, let's come back here. If you look real close, the brown has got an offset, then the white's got an offset, and then there's the text. So I've stepped it down 2 or 3 times to give more depth to that piece. So if those glasses are the exact size that you want them to be, then you need to offset it once or twice or however many times you're going to put layers on it. I do an offset for each layer. So if I wanted to have, like I did with this Sweeter Than Honey, then with that selected, do an offset, not a movement, offset. There we go. And I'm sticking with that just like Clack. Boy, I'm OCD too. I'm going to change that. I'm going to do an offset of 3 millimeters. And I'm not going to delete the original objects, but I am going to select the resulting objects. And I'm going to do another offset, 3 millimeters. Done. So now that's the piece that I need to put in the honeycomb. So that is all grouped, which is good. We need it to be. And I want to put this in the center, align the center, and let's take it up just a wee bit. And I want those glasses to be right there. So what I need to do is grab my glasses, hold my shift button, and now it's like, okay, well, which one do you need? Do you need to weld it? Do you need to subtract it? Do you need the intersection? I don't know. What do? Go to Tools, go to Boolean Assistant, and you can come over here and start looking. That's not what you want, because that's going to cut out and just leave a big hole right there. That's not what you want. That's not what you want. There it is. And say, okay. And then what I look for is like that little piece right there. I may not want that to be there. That might be because, and then look, there's a little bitty piece right there. So show you another tool. If you take that right now, that's all grouped together. And I don't have this perfectly symmetrical, or else these would be identical. Actually, you know what? The sunglasses might be what's not symmetrical. I don't know. Something's not symmetrical. But what you can do is ungroup all of this. And now I'm going to take and I'm going to say that right there. I'm going to select that. And then I'm going to come up here to Tools. Select shapes smaller than selected. Now that's labeled incorrectly, because the way I read that, select shapes smaller than selected, then it would not include that shape, but it does include that shape. If I click on that button, it's going to grab any shape in here that's smaller, including that one. And then you can hit the delete button and it's going to clean all those little bitty pieces up. So if you had a whole bunch of them in there, it's going to grab them all at one time and clean that up instantly. And that right there is going to be a better offset to put this on. And in fact, what you probably would want to do, come back, go ahead and put this centered so it's in place. Now weld or do your Tools, Boolean Assistant, and that's the one we want. Say okay. Ungroup that, and I'm going to do that again and say Tools, select shape smaller than that, but I'm going to keep this little triangle. So that's got all those selected, but I'm now going to hold the Control button and deselect that, and now hit the delete button. And I like that better. And that's going to be the piece that would be glued on top. That's the next layer, and then that goes there. That's the third layer. And that's how you weld your pieces in. And if you were going to do like I did the scripture, I typed out all of my font or whatever my letters are going to be. And then I draw a rectangle around that. And this rectangle I can take and look. I just do a little and get rid of that. What do I do? Get rid of you. That rectangle is, let's give it an even number, let's say 40 millimeters high. So it's from here to here is 40 millimeters. The radius tool, the way that works, right now it's got a value of 10. Well, that's 10 millimeters. So 10 millimeters up and 10 millimeters out would give you that radius. So if I've got a 40 millimeter height and I wanted that to be rounded over, then I'm going to go to half. I'm going to go to 20 millimeters and I'm going to come here and go half and here and go half. And now I've got a perfect rounded piece. Now, if that turns out to be not what you want, all you have to do is you can undo and you come back here and say 15 and click and click. But now if you look at that and you say, that's not what I want, another trick you can do is instead of undo, we'll come in here tight so you can see. But that radius, if I come in the middle of the radius, you see how the cursor changes? Double click, and there it goes away. Double click, or actually you don't even double click, just click it once. So you can click it to add it, or click it to take it away. But once I've done that, and I got that piece that I'm going to put my text on, do the same thing. Do the offset. And say I'm only going to do 2 layers that time. I'll drag that down here. And actually it's way too big. But grab that, bring it down. And then I would weld that in just like I did the others. So that's easy. The hard part was done once you created the array with the honeycomb and you got all that. Welding this in is using the Boolean tools. And if you're not real familiar with those, I've been doing this for 1.5 years. I still use that Boolean assistant religiously because you can preview it and not make any changes until you say okay. All right. We did the how to do that. Keep going. All right. Yeah, guys, 48 people. We got 49 people here. I'm so pleased. I'm so tickled that 1 hour and 45 minutes in, I've been able to keep you guys here that long. And thank you for all of the super thanks. I greatly appreciate it. Guys, go down there and smash that like button. If you're not a subscriber to this channel, subscribe, because I don't do this a lot, but I might start taking a page from Clack. I don't even know if he's still here. He's probably Brandy's probably done called him into the house, or he might be in the house watching. I don't know. But I might take a page from him and might start doing this, because I did waste 2.5 days this week trying to put a video together, only to lose all the work. And I was frustrated. And it's easier just to do this and then actually address anything that you might have questions for. So let's, all right, let's see, turn that off. What's the question here? How did you account for the battery cord? Oh, the battery cord. Okay. So the battery cord is actually quite simple, very simple. I pulled that out whenever I dropped the batteries a minute ago, but the battery cord fits in there like so. And all I did was I took my mics and just mic'd that cord to see how thick that cord was. And I think it was averaged anywhere around 4 millimeters or so. So I'm going to delete that. Delete, go away. So this is the back piece. I come over here to my circle tool and I draw out a perfect circle and tell it to go to 4 millimeters. Once I got that there, I tell it to go to the center. And now that it's centered up, I brought it down about like so. I didn't take it to exactly half. I left it a little bit high. And actually, it was think I did it a little bit bigger, but once you got the size you want it to be and you've centered that up, all you do is just select that piece, hold your shift button, select that piece, and subtract it. And that created the slot. And this one is designed. I did this one. Did I do this one differently? Yeah, because oh, you know what? I'm not showing you the screen, stupid. Yeah. All right, go back. I'll do that again. All right, undo. Told you guys we're gonna mess up. All right, so I drew out a perfect circle. And actually on the box that I had, I've got 3 tabs and not 2 tabs. But once you draw out that perfect circle, and because I designed this one wrong with only 2 tabs here instead of 3, that it wouldn't work here. And that might be what you picked up on. But with 3 tabs in here, then that put that yeah, that put that there like that. If that was in the center of the piece, and just brought it down to where it wasn't quite at the center and say A, subtract B, and subtract. And that put the notch in there to let that cord slide out of there. But because this is designed wrong, I should have designed that the other way around. When I deleted the slots to begin with, I deleted the wrong 3. I should have done it backward, done it the other way around. All right. So hopefully, Richard, that answered that question. And yeah, you might have picked up that I had my design wrong there. Will version 1.5 allow undo and node editing? You know what? Into branding, the craziest thing is it does work sometimes. And I haven't figured out the rhyme or reason about when it will and when it won't. Sometimes it works. You just try it. You know, if you're in node editing and you hit undo, it ain't going to do nothing. You have to go out, hit, and then go undo. But on occasion, it works. And I've said from day one when I was learning LightBurn, priority matters. You have to do things in a certain order for it to work correctly in LightBurn. And there is a priority that you have to take either when you're going into node editing or something that will allow undo to work, because at LightBurn Experience, this came up and Jason, the creator, the Oz of LightBurn, he was asked, will you make undo work in node editing? And he said, it does. So something and I have had it work for me. And so he does it in a way that it works for him. But I don't know what that priority is. I don't know what the steps are. But we did have that discussion with Jason about it, that it doesn't work all the time. And I don't know what might come of that. But just try it before giving up on it, because sometimes it works. Great job looking forward to the next one. All right. Thanks, Mark. You can use Control-Z to Control-Z node edits now. Well, okay. All right. So Jack's saying Control-Z, which is undo. So Jack, are you saying that Control-Z will work when the undo button won't? I hadn't tried that. But the undo button will work sometimes if you got there in the right, if you marched there in the right order. I don't know. LightBurn not showing when you created the cord. Yeah, sorry about that. But I fixed it. Squirrel. I fought with node editing today, and yes, I can confirm it works when it wants to. Yeah, it's about how you got there. As long as I deselect the nodes, it works. No, same thing. All right. Yeah. So he's saying that I guess Control-Z maybe didn't work before, and now it does when it works, but it doesn't always work. All right, guys. So I think this has been long enough. We're pushing 2 hours. Hello, Robert from Canada. If you're just joining us, you got here at just in the time to wrap it up. In fact, I'm gonna do something that I don't normally pay attention to. I'm gonna jump over here to let's see here. How do I do that? Oh, actually, I guess I got to come over here and go here. And I'm going to check on y'all. I'm going to see what y'all done. Come down here, go to live. And then I hope I don't get no feedback here. Yep. Mute that. All right. All right. Cool beans. All right. So we've got 46 likes and 48 watching. Thank you, guys. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I am going to get out of here. And I hope you guys learned a lot. I hope I'm tickled pink that I got this many people watching and this long. Chicago Bob, thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a regular viewer and contributor. And thank you for the thanks. I do greatly appreciate it. So with that said, guys, I'm Steve, Hobo with Wood, and I'm out. Now I got to go over here and hit the end screen button, and it takes forever to actually end the stream, and it's going to wait forever, and I'm just going to sit here and talk.